Assalamu alaikum everyone. During the following 10 episodes we're going to discuss subjects that in Islam are either forbidden, haram, not recommended, makruh, or have strict moral codes governing their practice. As human beings we strive to follow Allah through His divine guidance in the Holy Quran and through the Sunnah and Ahadith of the Holy Prophet and his purified progeny, peace be upon all of them. Why then are we making a program about taboo subjects? Why, if we are as Muslims are trying so hard to follow the path to Allah, do we need to talk about such things? Why? Because there is a reality that Muslim men and women are not perfect. Muslim men and women are not always pure in thought and deed. Why? Because we are all human and therefore flawed to a greater or lesser degree. But we know these things are wrong. So why do we need to talk about it? Why? Because it prevents us living a false reality that not talking about these things creates. False realities come from untruths, lies, and secrets and lies and deceit are the realm of shaitan, the realm of evil. Allah demands that we walk in the open amongst the truths and the light of His love. Allah is all compassion, all understanding, and all love. To know this is to believe it, and to believe it is to live it in our lives. To face ourselves, to face the reality of ourselves, takes a certain courage, a certain humility. To face the reality of ourselves is to admit to Allah and to each other that we are flawed creatures in the eyes of God. The hope lies in the fact, the reality that Allah loves us and will forgive us no matter what, if we turn to Him. If we admit our shortcomings and ask for His forgiveness, Allah will forgive us. But we must change or strive to bring about social change, which goes to create some of the problems we face in our daily lives. In the Quran 13:11, it says, "For each person there are angels in succession before and behind him. They guard him by command of Allah. Allah does not change a people's lot unless they change what is in their hearts. But when Allah willeth a people's punishment, there can be no turning it back, nor will they find besides Him any to protect." The important message I'm trying to bring to you today is that Allah sees and knows all. We cannot hide our thoughts and actions from Allah ever. So these episodes are to bring into the light topics that exist in our society, whether we are Christian, Jewish, Muslim, all faiths or none. We as human beings do think and say things that we should not. The Muslim community prides itself on striving hard to stay close to Allah. We pride ourselves that we attend to our prayers, unlike many of our brothers and sisters of other faiths or none. We pride ourselves that we abstain from pig meat, alcohol, illicit sex, unlike many of our brothers and sisters of other faiths or none. But do we live on false pride? Shall we find out? Are we humble enough to open up taboo topics, to see what the truth is in our communities, in our lives? I think we are. So in the following episodes, we're going to explore the following topics. In episode 2, we're going to look at miscarriage, stillbirth and neonatal death. Do we support our brothers and sisters to come to terms and recover from often a hidden loss? Or do we cross the road when we see them in the street because we don't know how to deal with it? In episode 3, we're going to look at domestic abuse. Domestic violence takes many facets: physical, emotional, mental, financial. And we are going to have a look at some of them or all of them if we have time. In episode 4, we're going to have a look at abortion. We will look at the differences in understanding of when a fetus is classified as a human being in Islam and in the West, and the various reasons for abortion. In episode 5, we're going to look at sexually transmitted diseases. In Islam, sex outside marriage is strictly haram. So why are so many of our young men contracting sexually transmitted diseases? We are going to look at the different types of sexually transmitted diseases, their symptoms and their treatment. In episode 6, we're going to look at self-harm, which is something that affects many children in our community. In Muslim communities, mental health disorders are often not discussed and instead stigmatized. When things that affect people's daily lives are not discussed, nothing is accomplished. So we will look at recognizing the symptoms and warning signs of self-harm, why children and adults self-harm, and where to go for help. In episode 7, we're going to look at child abuse. Child abuse is a big and difficult, complex topic. So we are going to look at this in episode 7 and in episode 8. I want to make a quote from Nelson Mandela, and he said, "There can be no keen revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children." As a social worker, I work with children and families where child abuse has taken place. In this episode, I would like to look at the many forms that child abuse can take. And I would like to ask the question, are we being proactive in our communities to protect children from harm? What can we as Muslims do to protect our children from abuse? The second part of this topic, episode 8. In this episode, I want to look at some of the possible long-term effects of child sexual abuse and where children and their families can go for help and support. In episode 9, I want to look at pornography. In the Quran, the teachings are clear. In Surah 16:90, it says, "Surely God enjoins justice, kindness and the doing of good to kith and kin, and He forbids all that is shameful, indecent, evil, rebellious and oppressive." Pornography and the culture of pornography has all the three things that God has prohibited in verse 16:90 in the Quran. In this episode, I want to talk about the effect on our children and young people of pornography and the manner in which it has invaded our homes and our values. In the final episode, I want to look at online abuse. And in this episode, I want to look at anti-Muslim abuse on the internet. The internet allows people to take on a new and anonymous identity and to bypass traditional editorial controls. Online anti-Muslim hate messages can be sent anonymously or by using false identity, making it difficult to identify the offender. This can be extremely frightening as the perpetrator could be anyone, and the online threat can escalate into the physical space. All these topics affect the whole of society, and by society I refer to British mainstream society and the Muslim community within British society. I look forward to opening up these taboo topics for wider discussion. I hope these episodes will encourage you to take these issues into your mosques and into the communities where you live, to search for solutions to the many social problems that we are faced with today. Thank you.